The other week, my employer's financial advisor held a retirement training session for all the employees inside the company. And his goal was to go over all the various investment options that we have available in our 403b account, which is like a 401k for nonprofits. And he made a broad recommendation during the training session that a target date fund would be the best investment option for all employees. And I thought about this and I was like, he's not wrong, but he's also not right. This may be the best option for those that are new to investing or those that are looking for a set it and forget it option, which I mean is probably most people, but there's a couple things about it that just made me cringe a little bit. And normally I'm all about target date funds if they're cheap, but ours aren't. And so if you're willing to spend 1 hour per year looking over your investment portfolio, you could easily save over $100,000 by retirement. So let's get into it. Now, obviously, I couldn't speak up in this situation. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't and don't give investment advice, and his recommendations were well-intentioned for the audience at hand. But for me, someone who somewhat knows the investment options available in my 403b program, I couldn't help but think how many people may be squandering thousands of dollars over their lifetime to their retirement account. And so what else could I do but YouTube about it? So today I'm going to go over how I made my investment choices for my 403b program and why I think it's going to save me over $100,000 more than my financial advisor's recommendation. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm just a dude talking to a camera in his bedroom on a Friday night. So do your own research, come to your own conclusions. I know nothing. So let's start off with some quick definitions that I think are going to be helpful for me to tell the story and provide the analysis. A 401k, a 403b, or a 457. These are just retirement accounts made available to employees that work at companies, nonprofits, or governments. And you can think of them like a savings account, except for retirement. And instead of leaving cash in these accounts, you usually use that cash to make investments into, say, mutual funds. And you do that because you want the money to grow by the time you reach retirement. Stocks. This is just a partial share of a company. So if you own a company's stock, say Amazon for example, then you own part of the company. And as that company grows, say Amazon, as Amazon grows, then your shares in that company would grow as well. And all of the stocks in the United States stock market, Facebook, Amazon, Google, average about an 8% return per year. Bonds. This is just a partial ownership of a loan. And so if you own bonds, say a loan with the United States government, then they'll pay you back for that loan with interest. And over time, as that loan gets paid back, along with the interest, your bond investment should grow. And all bonds within the United States average a return of about 4%. So less than stocks, but less risky. Mutual funds. These are just a group of stocks or bonds, or a combination of both. So instead of owning Facebook or Amazon or Apple, you can own the entire United States stock market in one large group, or all the bonds in the United States in one large group. And this offers more diversification because your investments are spread out over multiple companies, which reduces your risk, and you can maintain pretty good returns with these mutual funds. Financial companies. So there are various investment companies like Fidelity or Vanguard or T. Rowe Price that offer their own mutual funds that you can invest in. So groups of stocks or bonds or a combination of both. Net expense ratios. So this is the fee that financial companies charge to manage and maintain those mutual funds. So if you were to own individual stocks or bonds, you don't really get charged a fee for this, but it's kind of risky to rely on one company or one bond. And so you want to invest in mutual funds to offer diversification, but then the financial companies are going to charge you a fee to manage and maintain that mutual fund. And anything above a 0.25% fee is considered high, at least in my opinion. So now that we know what's going on here, I'm going to detail how I selected my mutual funds for my 403b account to maximize my returns, or make the most money. Target date funds. So these are a type of mutual fund that in their simplest form are just a combination of stocks and bonds. And as you get closer to retirement, the target date fund will automatically reallocate your money from the higher risk, higher reward stocks to the lower risk, lower reward bonds. And it does this reallocation automatically as you get closer to retirement. And I actually like target date funds for this reason if the cost is right, below 0.25%. Target date funds are the set it and forget it option that manage your risk automatically as you get closer to retirement. But during our meeting earlier, there were really two main reasons that made me cringe on the inside when our financial advisor recommended these target date funds to everyone. 1. The target date funds made available in our 403b accounts have net expense ratios of 0.70%. This is high. It costs us a lot to use these target date funds, and this was never mentioned by the financial advisor. And 2, the target date funds are offered by the same institution that offers our 403b accounts. And while this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it always gives me a little pause when someone is recommending their own products. Could there be a conflict of interest here? Are they only recommending the product because it's their own product and it benefits them? And would they even tell me if the best product for me wasn't their own product? And so that first reason, the net expense ratios, is why I didn't invest in target date funds in my 403b account. And that second reason, the potential conflict of interest that was never mentioned here, is why I'm now YouTubing about it. So here's what I did instead. I sort of bought the equivalent of what's already in a target date fund, but separately. For example, I picked a low-cost mutual fund that mimics the United States stock market. And then I picked a low-cost bond fund that mimics the US bond market. And then I just allocated 90% of my investments in the stocks and 10% of my investments into the bonds, just as the target date fund would do automatically. And my net expense ratios for these two funds were 0.16% and 0.05% respectively, compared to the 0.70% offered by the target date fund. So as you can see from these charts, my portfolio is almost identical to the typical target date fund or the TIAA target date fund, which is made available in our 403b accounts. But there are a few differences, so I thought I'd just mention those real quick. So I decided not to have international exposure in stocks or bonds. International stocks and bonds have historically not performed as well as the United States stocks or bonds and are considered optional by many financial advisors. Plus, the mutual funds that offer international exposure in our 403b accounts have net expense ratios of 0.85%. So the ones available to me are pretty expensive as is. And the other difference is that a target date fund will rebalance the portfolio for you automatically as you get closer to retirement, that stock versus bond ratio. But with my custom portfolio, I just have to manually go in about an hour each year and do that rebalancing myself, the stocks versus bond ratio. Now, this could probably take 15 minutes, but I usually get a little distracted by the performance charts. So to sum it all up, all I'm doing is just recreating the target date fund without international exposure because it was expensive and not really necessary. And I just have to rebalance the portfolio every year. So pretty easy stuff. Now, how does that pay off? How does my average 0.15% net expense ratio compare to the 0.70% recommended by my financial advisor? Well, let's math it out. Let's say I were to invest $10,000 per year into my 403b account for 30 years. And since my portfolio is essentially identical to the target date fund, we'll assume they both produce a 7% rate of return, which is fairly common. And after 30 years, here's what we get. In both scenarios, we invested the same amount of money and grew it to the same ending value of $1,086,852. Wow, we're millionaires. Great. But wait, we still have to pay the fees that the mutual funds are charging us, the net expense ratios. With the TIAA target date fund at 0.70%, our fees total $138,000. And you probably thought 0.70%, that wasn't anything at all until we mathed it out. Compare that to only $31,000 for my custom portfolio. So let's get this straight. All I'm really doing is spending about an hour per year rebalancing my portfolio for 30 years to save on the net expense ratio. In the end, I've saved $106,828 for just 30 hours of work. That comes out to be about $3,560 per hour. So yeah, I don't mind giving up an hour of my time each year for that pay rate. I don't have a problem rebalancing my portfolio. So here are my final thoughts. Now I know this approach isn't for everyone, and the investment options made available in your 401k, 403b, or 457 may be a lot different than the ones offered in mine. But this idea of not accepting the default option that's given to us and just peeling back the curtain to see what's really going on can pay dividends, literally. And so by not accepting the default recommendation by our financial advisor for the target date fund and just selecting my own mutual funds that mimic that target date fund, I'm able to save over $100,000 by the time I turn 60. For 30 hours of work, I think that sounds like a life that's both healthier and happier. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lastly, I offer a free health kit, which has my top 10 sleep tips, 1 Whole Foods plant-based recipe, and 1 mobility workout that you can stream on any device you want. And on top of that, you can get subscribed to my weekly newsletter, where I offer the 3 most important things that I've read, watched, and listened to each week. All free. So if you're interested in that, link down in the description. Thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys next week.